Welcome back to Sputnik. Marc Wadsworth was a prominent black activist in Labour politics since the 1970s. I've known him personally for almost 40 years.
He's rubbed shoulders frequently with Nelson Mandela, Muhammad Ali, Neville and Doreen Lawrence, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, Tony Benn and Jeremy Corbyn over decades.
Now he rubs shoulders with the likes of that son of a rabbi, Tony Greenstein, expelled from the Labour Party as part of the great anti-Semitism controversy, which, like the swallow, accompanies every summer these days. He's back in the news because he's within reach of his £30,000 crowdfunded legal action to overturn his expulsion. Marc Wadsworth joins us now. Welcome, Marc. I think if I were a lawyer, I would immediately file a case for discrimination, and I would cite the difference in treatment given to Dame Margaret Hodge and Marc Wadsworth. Now, that's free legal advice. What do you think of it?
Well, I'm talking to my lawyers. I've got the best legal advice, a great legal team. Martin Westgate QC is among them. He successfully took action against the Labour Party when thousands of Jeremy Corbyn, well, thousands of voters actually in the Labour Party were excluded.
Who were suspected of being Corbyn
Suspected
voters.
of being Corbyn supporters were excluded from the ballot for the leadership contest. And so, fantastic team. And I've certainly said to them, because other people have said that to me, that race discrimination should be considered as part of our action.
Well, let's compare and contrast. After the incident, which we'll talk about, you were immediately, within hours, expelled from the Labour Party, which had to be overturned because it was an illegal act. You were then left for 2 years in suspension, and then your case was surely prejudiced by the march of overwhelmingly, if not exclusively, white women Labour MPs to your hearing where you were duly expelled. Some on Twitter say lynched. It was a very dramatic contrast to what happened with Dame Margaret Hodge, who, it is boasted, called the Labour leader an effing anti-Semite and a racist. There's no denying that. She boasts about it and stands by it. She wasn't even suspended from the Labour Party, and the disciplinary action against her has been dropped.
Well, the differential treatment between the two of us, me, a lifelong anti-racist campaigner, and a dame who's super wealthy with fancy lawyers, is startling. And I think that that's not been lost in the Twitter sphere, on social media. That's absolutely been on fire with people criticising that decision and supporting me.
Tell us about the crowdfunding appeal. Lots of people crowdfund. They don't always succeed. You're within an ace, aren't you, of reaching your target of £30,000. Tell us.
Well, the original target was 5,000. Then we went to 10,000. And then it went to 20,000, and now we're nearing 30,000. And I think that is a measure of the huge amount of public support that I have. There was a poll done of ordinary members of the public, more than 3,000 people polled. 98% of them supported my campaign. And I think the Labour leadership need to pay attention to that level of support.
Now, you also took it on tour, didn't you? You had meetings all over the country. Tell us.
I've been to 12 different cities in Britain. I'm just about to go to Scotland, to Glasgow and Edinburgh. I've been to Wales. I've been all over north, south, east and west of the UK. Packed meetings, huge outrage, mainly from Labour Party members who cannot believe that this injustice has been done in their name. Huge miscarriage of justice. Very disappointed that the new General Secretary of the Labour Party has ruled out of order more than 30 motions from constituency Labour Party saying that they're not competent business for the party because my case is confidential. Confidential? They were leaking from Labour Party headquarters, South Side, sometimes called Dark Side, My case, even before I was expelled, George.
To be fair, that was before the current General Secretary's tenure.
Before the current General Secretary's tenure, you're right. But
that General Secretary is now in the House of Lords.
That General Secretary's been rewarded.
Go figure.
With a golden handshake of probably £1 million and a seat in the House of Lords. They were leaking to the news media to the extent that on the day that I was expelled, it was sent out by Labour Party press office to journalists before I was even told. Now, talking about the current General Secretary, all right, there aren't the leaks, but there are all sorts of things in terms of ruling those motions out of order, which is a gag on free speech. It's not in the tradition of our party of social justice. You notice I naturally say our party.
So do I, and I've been kicked out 15 years.
It should be our party again.
Well, let's see. Tell us, because not every viewer will be cognizant of what happened on that day. From your point of view, walk us through it.
Okay, well, I was at the launch of the Shami Chakrabarti report into anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, so-called, and all forms of racism. And my organisation, a black organisation, had put a submission in to that inquiry. So I was there legitimately speaking to the issues raised in that submission. In the meantime, I'd spotted a Labour MP consorting with a right-wing journalist from the Daily Telegraph. The Daily Telegraph journalist handed a news release that I'd given to her, to Ruth Smith, who she seemed to know. And then afterwards, that journalist, Kate McCann, called out my name to the Labour leader and, you know, sort of targeted me. And I felt I needed to defend myself. So I explained what I'd observed, that I'd seen this collusion, and then I went on to talk about black representation, the actual underrepresentation of black people in the room, Africans, Caribbeans, and Asians. I made that observation. That was the main intervention that I made.
Helpfully, it's all on video, so no one can say you said this, you said that. You said what you said, and it's all on video. I've watched it many, many times, as many have also on social media. I can find no whisper, not a whisper, of anti-Semitism in what you said, and yet that's what they first tried to expel you on, isn't it?
Well, it was a smear. And you know the old saying that if you throw enough mud, some of it sticks. And one ally, who's known Jeremy for more than 40 years, says the most shocking thing about your case is that no one significant on the left has come forward to defend you. And that's an outrage.
Well, as an insignificant member of the left, I've been highlighting your case from the beginning. But what I think you're saying there is that you're disappointed in Jeremy Corbyn and his circle.
You certainly have been a stalwart in terms of highlighting this injustice, George. What I was talking about, maybe I misphrased it, was within the Labour leadership, MPs, the sort of figures that you would expect.
Including black MPs.
Black MPs.
Black MPs that are often voluble, very voluble on other things and very good on other things.
Black MPs need to find their voice. I think if they were in the States, they would be up in arms about this case. Because they wouldn't just see it.
Or in Britain in the 1970s and 80s.
Well, they wouldn't just see it as an individual. They would see it as a challenge to the whole of our community.
Of course, yeah.
And there is a pressure cooker building up. And there comes a point at which you have to give release to those silent voices.
Where's this all going to end? As you alluded earlier, actually nearly 100,000 Labour members were either expelled, suspended, their membership frozen, or excluded from the ballots to re-elect Jeremy Corbyn as Labour leader. It's an unspoken scandal. It's unprecedented in British history. No such thing has ever happened before. Up to 100,000 people for a deliberate political purpose to stop them voting for the existing leader of the Labour Party. And many of them, some thousands, have not yet been reinstated. People like the rabbi's son, people like you, people like me, for different reasons in a different era, are still excluded. Is that wall going to break? Might your legal case be the case that breaks that wall?
I've been told that this legal case is a test case for thousands. It'll be the first time, it'll set a precedent, but I have to raise up to £150,000. These guys are out to break me, to bankrupt me, and compare and contrast that with the way that they've appeased, they have capitulated to and apologised to this rump of the right wing, from organisations in the community, for instance, that don't even support the Labour Party. Their leadership are Tories. And it's quite shocking. And I think that isn't lost on the general public.
Marc Wadsworth, the best of luck with reaching your target and obtaining justice. Thanks for joining us on the Sputnik. And now it's your turn to tell us what you think through the portals of social media. What's rattling, Gayatri?
So you don't have to be black or a Jewish anti-Zionist to be expelled from the Labour Party today, but it helps. So Raymond Deloney says Marc Wadsworth was hung out to dry by a white middle-class mob of ladies who lynch. The silence of Labour's black MPs on his expulsion is a far cry from the days of black sections. It ignores his work with the Lawrence family, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and President Nelson Mandela.
And Muhammad Ali.
Ali.
This man, Marc Wadsworth, is a legend in black left-wing politics.
Yes.
And for him to be treated so harshly, when that is compared and contrasted with the treatment of others, is a real problem for Labour. And if they've any sense, they won't let it go to the court. That's my advice for free to the Labour leadership.
Well, that's all the time we've got for the tweets today.
Which, alas, means that's the end of the show.
But you can stay in touch with us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, RT_Sputnik, or on our Facebook, Sputnik on Russia Today. It's goodbye from me, Gayatri.
And from me, George Galloway. It's been marvellous.